Hey guys, gameboy3800 here. Once again, we're back in Beam for another community event announcement. That's right, it's been a little while, but I had to finish the year off with one of these. On a familiar track, if you've been in the BeamG community for a long time, this is Sharpsburg Fairgrounds, originally by Hawk05, being remade by Skinner. So thank you so much for this map, Skinner. He customized it just for us. A community event has a standard set of rules, and a special event in the middle. We're going to start things off with the truck tune. This is going to be my truck, Black Magic, found in the new adjustable add-ons pack. It's a fairly standard set of rules. Just like before, the horsepower limit is different from normal. Before, the horsepower limit was 1400. Now, it's back up to the usual 1750. But there is a twist. Listen to my engine. It doesn't actually rev that high. Well, why is that? Let's take a look. Oh, you see that? We only rev up to 6,000 RPM. That is the limit for this time. 6,000 RPM. And horsepower limit of 1750. Plus or minus 5, because it's hard to get an exact number sometimes. So 1750 horsepower at 6,000 RPM. You might be wondering, how do you do that? Because your engine's not revving as high. The simple answer is you chuck power at it. Next, let us go over racing. It's pretty simple. Let's just head over here. The starting line and finish line is down here. Just make sure your truck is nice and lined up. It can be anywhere within the bounds of the line, so if you want to try to get an angle and have your truck as far to the right as possible, you can try that. I don't think it's necessary though. Drive up to the line, have your front tires just over it, and away we go. Watch out for the inside ramps. They are the borders for the turn. You can clip them, but it will slow you down because it'll put your truck up onto its side. That was one full time around, but we have to go one more time around in order for the lap to be counted. Last turn. When you go across the finish line, try to have your camera angle as side on as possible so that we can see exactly where your front tires are when you land. So I'll show you an example. If you're coming around the last turn here, have your camera like that so that we can easily see frame by frame where your front tires are above that line. That's a very tight technical course. Maybe a lot of horsepower is not the answer. Maybe you want more control than horsepower. You're only allowed one tune though, so if you have a low horsepower racing setup, you may struggle in freestyle because this is a track meant for big air. Next, into freestyle, it's quite simple. You have 2 minutes from your first stunt or obstacle hit to sender. Try to keep it realistic. If you roll over and you're on the roof for like more than a second or two, then that should be counted out. That should be an RII. If you are able to grab a gear in time and save that way, allow time for yourself to shut down and restart. So something like that. We were not on a roof for too long, but we should probably want to shut down before restarting and continuing on. Otherwise, we'd just be able to power wheelie out of that, and what's the realism in that? I would like to be realistic this time, but you know how the events usually go. Sometimes, well, they just aren't. So have fun with it. Try to be realistic. But if you don't, I guess nothing's stopping you. One thing I should note, if we use the stronger suspension, like whatever this tune has, it's not allowed. Stronger suspension, either vintage or modern, not allowed. You got to use something that will have a chance of breaking. So I do need to change this tune from using stronger suspension to using that breakable suspension. Otherwise, you can just go forever with no consequence, and where's the fun in that? Now you might be wondering where all these extra bumps are on the outside of the course here. Well, that's the second special event. Last time out we had a tough truck challenge. Here it's going to be pretty much the same, but it's going to be shorter this time because people thought that it was too long before. But where's the tough truck? Well, it's been here the whole time. Tough truck has my special 454 V8 engine installed. It's got 500 foot-pounds of torque, 450 horsepower, more than powerful enough to get around any track. This is our start line. Go ahead and reset here even. And for fun we can turn on our light bar. I wanted to turn it on, never mind. Away we go. This is a two-wheel drive tune, so you will have to get used to that. And we have a couch in the back. What's that all about? Well, the challenge is keeping it in the back in one piece. Every piece you have fall off the truck is a time penalty, and if you arrive with no couch at all, I pray for your safety. Got some big jumps, got some big bumps. You got to manage your couch quite well. I lost my couch there. Safe to say I would not be sleeping well tonight if that got across the finish line like that. The fastest time will be whatever time you got, plus the minimum amount of time penalty from the couch parts lost. So each cushion counts as a time penalty, as well as the couch itself. So you could complete the round with only one cushion left, just with a huge penalty. But obviously try not to do that. So you saw the course there. We're just going around a nice big sweeping turn. You can drift it quite well. Don't go too wide. There are concrete barriers there ready to get you. And then this final super bumpy section before the finish line there. Now this track may change by the time you see it. It may have like a water hole here as a finish. But the general track layout should still be the same. But this is a work in progress track. So by the time you see this video, it'll be all done and online, as well as the forum post will be all linked in the description as well. Now, to make the event a little bit more special, normally these events, there's no winner, really. It's usually the top 5 of each category is considered the winner. But here, it is going to be a point system. And the top 10 overall drivers will in fact get a prize. What will this prize be? Well, you kind of saw it before. It is Black Magic, but it is a 12K version of Black Magic, an upscaled version, so it looks better than ever. It has a special engine though. Let's go ahead, park her up here. Bonk. And over here is where I've been hiding Black Magic 12K. What engine is that? Can you tell what engine that is? I'll tell you what, it's got a supercharger bigger than my channel and future, so let's take a look. If you have not guessed, this is an airplane engine. This is a 27-liter Rolls-Royce Merlin engine. It's got a 2-stage, 2-speed supercharger. It is insane. It's got almost 6,000 foot-pounds of torque. Puts out over 3,000 horsepower maxed out. It comes with its own chassis, with its front-mounted radiator. got custom air intakes. It's got a lot of tuning potential as well. Let's go ahead and give it one complete send. Oh! Rip. We're still alive, but that's because we have the stronger suspension equipped. Let's go ahead and see what we can do with the engine tune here. We can actually make it naturally aspirated if we like. So this will give us a more sensible driving characteristics. We've got 1200 horsepower, 2000 foot-pounds of torque. This should be a little bit more forgiving. Yeah, it's a cool motor. I'll show you one more thing we can do with it. The Merlin headers have two positions. We have one behind the cab, but if you have a long boy cab or super cab, you can put them at the rear suspension stacks as to clear more bodies. So yep, that's it. The top 10 places in the community event points series will get this rare engine. Now don't worry if you don't win or don't compete in the event. This engine will come out publicly, but it'll be next year. So if you want exclusive early access, you gotta win. One of the most important things for tuning your engine is to have the torque curve app in one of the corners. I'll show you how you can enable it. Let's go ahead, get rid of it so I can show you where it is. So if we go up top to UI apps, we can go ahead and click add app. And then it is a base game add-on. All we have to do is scroll on down. And it is right here towards the bottom. Torque curve. And now we can see it's in the top left. I like to have it in the top right so that when we have our parts menu on the left or the tuning menu on the left, we can still see an immediate effect. Now my controller overlay for OBS is in the way, so I will move this over here so that you can see just everything fine now. So if we wanted to, for instance, see what changing our RPM did to our horsepower, we can have an immediate effect. And the horsepower number we are looking at is the one farthest bottom left. So 1669 here. If we raise this up to what the RPM was before, this will tell us our exact number here. 1755. 1750 plus or minus 5 horsepower is the maximum number. So we are exactly at the limit. The torque number up here, you can have that be higher than 1750 if you can manage that. And the NA options here, that's for naturally aspirated. That's for the base engine, but almost always we're going to have some form of forced induction unless you limit yourself that way on purpose. So you're going to want the farthest bottom left power number. That will be the highest power number that your engine has. And 1755 is the absolute limit for this competition. You can have it lower, but you cannot have it higher. Let's go into the parts menu to see what we can and can't do to our funny motor. If we go into the tuning menu, you can see a whole bunch of sliders. I'll show you what these are over here. Here we got ourselves adjustable tires. This means we can change pretty much everything about them. And we have the Ford customizable engine. Here we can change pretty much everything about this. And this is how I've got my system set up here. The body doesn't matter too much, but it's there. Going to go over to tuning and just discuss everything. For alignment up here, you can change the ride height to however you like, and you can have the four-link length however long or short you like with the Blaze adjustable suspension. Brakes are brakes, you kind of want them. Now moving to the engine tab, the normal things you see here are engine sounds, RPM limit, and fuel volume. The important one to change here is the RPM limit. It must be below 6,000. It can be lower if you want a challenge. I have mine just below because that's where my horsepower tops out at. The other settings here for the adjustable Ford customizable engine, you can adjust the friction, the idle, the inertia, the weight. The things you cannot change too much are the engine efficiency. You cannot have this above 28%. The internal friction you cannot have below 13%. And the engine weight you cannot have below 50. Everything else is just how the engine can sound and behave. You are free to play around with that. Likewise, your powertrain here, you are free to play around with these gear ratios however you like. The radiator, even in the base mod, is highly adjustable. So this is the limit for your cooling strength, and your fan and airspeed are free to play around with. But you cannot have reservoir size above 100, and you cannot have cooling strength above 50,000. Steering, you need that. That can be whatever you like. Supercharger, you can play around with this, either supercharger or turbocharger, depending on what kind of motor you have. Or you could even go naturally aspirated. It doesn't matter, as long as you can stay below 6,000 RPM and below or around 1750 horsepower. Suspension, this is all free for you to play around with, as per always. Next we get to tires. Normally all you get to play around with here is the tire damping and the tire pressure. But here you can see we have a lot more sliders than that with the adjustable tires here. You cannot have the aerodynamic drag below 14. You cannot change the grip at all, so that means no base grip, no off-road grip, and no sliding grip adjustments. You cannot change the tire node count, but you can change its weight down to 4.5 per node. And then damping and tire pressure, you are free to mess around with that however you like. And then the torque converter, this is the last thing. If you have a transmission with an adjustable torque converter, the biggest factors in getting power down to the ground is the diameter and stiffness. So the diameter should not be above 35, and it should not be above 40 in stiffness. So I have them right at the line here, and you saw how I was performing at the beginning drive. So all these rules in place, you can just use a base tune, lower the RPM, and then raise the supercharger pressure to get up to 1750 horsepower or just anywhere near that. And I can show you as much. So if we go to the engine and change it from that to the regular Merlin, we should still be at 6,000 RPM, but we're only at 1,000 horsepower. So how do we get around this? Well, we can go to the supercharger and crank it up. So now we're at much better power numbers of 1456 horsepower instead of 1,000. So that's how you can get some of your horsepower back. But now you'll see you don't go very fast. So what you can do here to get yourself some land speed back is adjust your gearing here. So we have the transfer case overdrive, the first gear and the second gear. Those will get you the most immediate results without giving you any loss of power. So now we have the ability to go over 70 miles an hour once again. Of course, you can mess around with that. You can mess with the other gearing options, but personally, I think that reduces your acceleration too much. But if you like it, you are, of course, free to mess around with it. The last thing I'll bring up is that the Harper race tires are allowed. They were allowed before, but I never specifically brought them up. The Zero Bounce Harper race tires have really good rebound control and have a little bit more grip to help you on the slick mud. So you don't have to use these, but I'm going to be using them. I think they're faster. Look at that, very little bounce. We'll be able to put the tire down really quickly. This should help for racing. That's going to be it for now. I'll see you all in the future. And the forum post with the full set of rules and the track link and the tough truck link will be in the video description. To upload clips, all you got to do is put your video files on Google Drive or Mediafire and link them on the forum or in my Discord server, also linked in the description. As for the due date, let's have it December 23rd as the due date. And the stream itself will be probably like December 30th or December 29th. So that we have plenty of time. It's during Christmas break. So everyone should have the ability to watch the stream and score everyone else's runs. Because don't forget, the freestyles will be shown live, and the chat will get to score them live. So, yep, that covers everything. I hope you all enjoyed the video. You can start practicing as soon as this video is out. Can't wait to see some of you guys' runs. And it's been a fantastic year all around. I hope your year's been as good as mine. Thanks, Gameboy. I'll see you all in the future.